first agenda item is public comment. I did not see anyone signed in for public comment, and seeing no one raising their hands, we will close public comment and move on to our agenda. We can go up there. Are we doing, you want to do this?
Maybe we can move those and get the principals on.
So we would like to move right up to our reports, updates, and action items. And the first item is distribution and presentation of school improvement plans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So this evening, you have school improvement plans in front of you, and we have administrators and principals here to present the plans. Just a couple of notes on the plans. They are preliminary. The process this year has been different than it has been in the past, and I know that actually the last couple of years and kind of into COVID, the focus obviously was on how do we manage COVID, and that's what the goals were for, I think, probably what felt like 10 years was probably 3. So this year, as you know, we've been working on the strategic plan framework. We've developed that. I've talked to this committee about how the leadership team, including principals, assistant principals, content coordinators, directors, central office staff have gone through a couple of workshop sessions. The last one was October 30th. So the process for the plans has been more inclusive, kind of historically, traditionally, and everywhere. The plans are developed by the principal in coordination with the school council, which is a building-based group who are brought together under MGL 71, Section 59C. The plans are really school-based. They are by statute, an opportunity. This is part of Ed Reform in '94. Part of the, it was really to get school community parent involvement in schools and decision-making within schools, really primarily through the development of the school improvement plan. So we've kind of taken that process and we've kind of added it into or brought it into our strategic planning process, because the feeling is that, or our feeling is that we have these goals as a district. What kind of better opportunity or mechanism to have our schools think about their goals than to have it come through a document or a process that's already in place. Instead of having them layer on an additional plan for their building, we're working it through the school improvement plan, which I think is a little bit different in some ways than maybe it has been done in the past, although I know the plans were connected to the district goals. But additionally, we've included the directors, content directors, as well as the content area coordinators in the planning, as well as I said, kind of the large group. So it's just been really, I think, very inclusive, which also made it more complicated. And I think that, you know, how we feel about this evening and what we're sharing with you is, in calling them preliminary plans, is that there's been a lot of work that's been done. As early as 10 minutes ago, we continue to work on really aligning these and bringing these together. And additionally, the plans that you're seeing tonight, as they exist, have not been seen again by the school council. So the school council did some work, building principals did work, but at some point we need to go back to the school council and say, kind of, here's where we are. Do we have any more feedback? And, you know, come back to you with a final plan, which, you know, by statute, it's really under the authority of the superintendent to approve the school improvement plans. It's because they are from the school council. So please consider this to be preliminary. We feel good about where we are. There's a lot of good stuff going on. And as I've said before, we really believe that these plans are really, and should be, hopefully, documents that we're touching all the time. And as we've already talked about, we've aligned some of the language and the goals and objectives to the actual administrative leadership rubric for evaluation purposes. So it's another tie-in for administrators so that they can kind of hit their administrative goals with their evaluation process, with the school improvement plans, and also be connected to the district-wide framework. So this is really a collective effort, and how we thought would be the most effective use of your time this evening. Instead of having every elementary principal come up here and read their plans to you, I've asked Lori Kirby to kind of give you an overview of the consolidated plan. We brought those goals and action steps that are in common really across all the elementary schools. And then each principal is going to talk a little bit about what it looks like in their building. So each school improvement plan for each building has a little bit of a different flavor to it. But what you're going to see tonight is those things that we all have in common as part of this planning process. So I don't know if anyone has any questions about that, and then we will have Mr. Lynn and Mr. Mahoney also present the McCall and the high school plan.
I have just one clarifying question for actually Mr. Mahoney. I believe we have a student representative on the school council, or DESI permits us to have that. Is that you, Michaela?
Does it all the
You're
time.
laughing. Is it? Oh, good. Then we'll be especially well informed tonight. I just want to know who that was. I wasn't clear about that. That's great.
You know her by her smile.
What's that?
You know her by her smile.
Michaela, you're not being expected to have anything prepared this evening,
say.
so I'm nervous for you right
Maybe
now.
Dennis could just sit there tonight and Michaela will just run right through it. No, that's terrific. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
And thank you for doing that, Michaela.
Okay, all right, Ms. Kirby, and elementary principals. Oh, I should say too, Kathy Karen, VO principal, actually showed up tonight even though she was told not to because she is so sick. So we collectively sent her home. She's been sick for a couple days, and I figured that, you would be okay with that. It's more important that she shows up at VO tomorrow
Thank
than
you
it
for
is.
doing that.
Well, I think it serves us all, so.
All right. Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity to share the good work that's happening in each of the buildings. And it makes perfect sense that we're presenting collectively because it is that common experience that we want for all of our students. And each building has its own culture, so it's just so important that we allow our leaders at the buildings to tell the story about their unique journeys and where they're going as they look at the district goals. So it is our goal to create a dynamic learning environment that considers the social, emotional, academic being of all of our students. And in order to make that happen, it requires everyone to be in on this very complex mission. So to that end, when we're thinking about building plans with such lofty goals, how is it that all of us together can make that difference for our students? So we have to think about the staff that we have and that building that professional capacity, and thinking about the structures that we already have in place and how we utilize them even better so that we give the people the time they need to share the ideas. Because just to piggyback off what Frank said about the process, this has been a very interesting journey, and we're just beginning when we think about these school improvement plans. And what I've noticed is that as we're talking about teaching and learning and how we know that we're reaching our goal and how is it that we're fostering these partnerships that are so critical in making all of our students successful, it is that sharing of ideas. And for Lincoln to be sharing out with Lynch and thinking about, and think about it, and just trying these out within their buildings, I see as being just such a powerful part of the process that you're not going to see here on paper. So tonight it is our hope that as we go through and thinking about reaching all of our learners, that we can highlight some of the great work that's happening within the buildings and recognizing that it is all of us together that make the difference. And we can't thank you enough for the support ongoing that you've given us. And when I look at the action items, I am just taken aback at the amount of support that is now in place at the elementary level that wasn't there 5, 6, 8 years ago. And I'm telling you, it's making a difference, and you don't want to hear from me anymore, so we're going to jump right in. And we are going to be taking a look at, first, foremost, those professional communities that we're building. What does that look like? What does that sound like within each of the buildings?
So I can give an example.
But you know what? Because this is my fault. We're so rude at times. We're always rushing to get into things. Why don't we just take a moment to introduce ourselves?
Chrissy Capanato, principal at Winchester.
Good evening, Leslie West, Principal of Morocco Elementary School.
Hi, Andrea Phelan, Principal of Ambrose Elementary. Thank you for having us here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Clough, Principal at Lincoln School. Thank you.
Thank you, Chrissy. I know, sorry.
When we're talking about instruction, we were so lucky last week to have that full professional development day where so many people learned so many new things. So today, during our faculty meeting at Lynch, we're really working on digging deeper into instructional practices. So our teachers were able to work in collaborative groups, either across grade levels. They chose, which group they wanted to be in, and kind of looked at student data and what practices they want to change in their or refine in their teaching. So that is an example of what we're doing over at Lynch.
And over at Ambrose, we've really been looking at those common planning times where grade level teachers come together and using that to strengthen and improve our practice. And I had a great example this week. I got together with the 4th grade team, and the teachers were looking at student work together. They had used the words their way assessment and also an informal decoding inventory. But from these assessments, it was such a rich conversation because we could see student strengths, but we also could see areas where we had students who needed support. And in particular, there were 3 students who needed support with consonant, vowel, consonant, something so basic, right? But we put them into small groups, and we can provide them with the precise instruction that they need. And this is really helping us to hone our practice and see results and move kids forward. But it also brings us together as a community because we look at student work, we have those conversations, and we can put students into small groups that really differentiate instruction for them.
If I could build upon that, because we're all prioritizing the standards more so now and really looking at targeted instruction, and that's across all curriculum areas. And with the support of the coaches, we've also seen a big difference in terms of being able to have them come in and model lessons with teachers across the board, also provide additional resources. For instance, in math, Julie McElhaney has come in and provided us with Cuisinart rods, so kids really have the hands-on manipulatives to work with. Some of the professional development that she's offered with math has been with doing vertical whiteboards where students actually work in small groups and they show their work up on a whiteboard. And I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but it's really phenomenal because the research shows that when kids are standing and they are able to see other children's work. I was able to be in a 4th and 5th grade classroom where multiple classrooms where this work was going on, and it was just amazing to see the rich conversations and the engagement, the high engagement that the students had with one another and with the teacher, that you see the teacher circulating around and listening in on the conversations and really taking a step back so that the kids work with each other, that the students actually do the critical problem solving. And it's just the growth that you see with students and their way to deepen their learning and share that practice. And then the teacher comes back at the end and has students summarize how they went about solving the problems. And it's great because you see different ways that students go at it and learn from each other. So that's just one example, but that whole idea of deepening their learning and the students being able to really problem solve, it's really inspiring, especially, this is my 10th year here, and seeing the progression and the deepening of the standards as well as the assessments, that there's multiple ways for children to show their learning and demonstrate what they know in multiple ways, and teachers using multiple assessments, not just pen and paper, running records, having check-ins with children, looking at their work, talking with them about it. It's been really refreshing.
And for all of that to happen, so we started with those professionals, taking a look at what that looks like and sounds like in the classroom, but you need to develop a safe learning environment for those students. And so what does that look like? What does that sound like in each of the schools?
Sure. So we know that classrooms and schools need to feel safe, equitable, and collaborative. And so we're working very hard at Morocco and across the district to make sure that we have strong community connections, for example. So as recently as today at Morocco, we talked about redoing our curriculum night to be more inclusive of students and families and community members so that there's that real sense of community and belonging at Morocco.
And then Kelly hit on this as well. It's just really thinking about how we know we reached our goal and giving students multiple opportunities to show what it is they know and are able to do. So we've been really focusing on these authentic learning experiences for our students and measuring them in ways that allow students to be them.
And so we've been working for a few years on performance-based assessments. And as we continue working on those, it's really, it's great to watch because students are being so collaborative with each other. They're really thinking critically about what they're doing. So I was in a 4th grade classroom just this week, and they were working on, it's so real life because Thanksgiving is coming up next week, but they're working on creating a dinner for their family. So they get a budget, and they have to go with that budget. They've got the flyers for Market Basket, Stop and Shop, wherever, and you know, they're trying to figure out what do they need for their family, like what do you need for the meal. Thanks. Are you getting vegetables? Are you going to have dessert? And do you have enough money to buy that? So it's really cool to see the students, and everybody comes with something different. So, you know, I come from an Italian family, so maybe we're going with pasta, but somebody else might come from, you know, a different family, and they have something different that they have with their family. So it's just cool to watch and cool to see.
And again, in order for all of this to happen, we need to feel safe so that we can be vulnerable and put ourselves out there. And so teachers work really hard to build those classroom communities, and the SEL coaches certainly have added a whole new layer to what that looks like and sounds like in the practices. And it's consistent, more consistent across the grade levels in classrooms.
Right, and the SEL coaches, I mean, I couldn't live without my SEL coach. Not only is she there for students, but she's there for staff. She's there to foster our community growing together during our all-school meetings. So we've really this year taken a peek at what do those morning meetings look like and how are we building community in classrooms. And it's just been awesome to watch. So at Ambrose, everyone at Ambrose has to have a morning meeting. And through that morning meeting, we're building community, and our social emotional coaches are there. They're coaching teachers. They may be a part of the meeting, or they may be supporting me as I'm going around to be a part of all of these meetings. And we have found that it's really, truly helped. You know, using the ruler program, we use a lot of that language at those morning meetings. We use other language. It could be a high five, a hug. But our goal in the end is to make sure that every single student at the elementary level in Winchester has a trusted adult that they can go to, that they can feel comfortable. So it could be the psychologist, could be the principal, could be the SEL coach, and that's what we're looking at fostering.
I would also add that, you know, the SEL coaches have been instrumental in not only supporting students, but also supporting staff. And if you think about, you know, the COVID experience, you know, everyone had to pivot and, you know, come back in a different way. And that's not just students, but also staff. And I think that our coaches have done a really nice job of reaching out to the whole community, including, you know, not just students and staff, but also parents, and helping them. And often the SEL coaches will put together different articles and things that are really helpful for parents that we'll include in our newsletters. They'll also be a part of our all-school assemblies to work on different and offer different types of mini lessons on social skills, and also we embed that within our faculty meetings and professional development. You know, teachers are taking advantage of, you know, social emotional skills that are not just for the students, but also for themselves. So it's been a wonderful change to have them in each of our buildings. They're really valuable, and the staff really, I think, values it as much as we do.
Right. And these practices aren't happening in isolation. They're embedded throughout the curriculum, throughout the school day. And that's the ultimate goal, right, in the end. And I think that lends to talking about safe community again.
Sure. So not only do we manage students' social emotional well-being, but we also have to manage well-being and safety in schools. And as you know, just last week, Morocco had to very quickly change our dismissal procedures as there was a fire at the top of Bates in Lebanon. And so it's because those protocols have been practiced and rehearsed so many times in so many different ways that we were able to very safely and effectively relocate the entirety of the school building at dismissal. And we did that in under, an hour or so. And it was very well conducted from each staff member to each student. Everybody was able to follow the protocols quite remarkably in such a short amount of time. After we relocated, we were able to debrief for a little bit and determine what went well and what needs improving. And so it's also exciting to know that we're going to continue to enhance those safety protocols now and moving forward to make sure that we are even more safe in our procedures and protocols.
And I think also it's important to know that the way that we get evidence about that is when we have the surveys that are conducted each year with MCIEA, and that feedback is directly reflective of how students are feeling in all grade level, well, not all grade levels, but elementary, middle, and high school. And, we really look at that and, say, hey, what is this telling us, And for the first time this year, Lincoln's going to be piloting a survey for parents. So we look forward to that and seeing what that tells us as well. And so we have a committee together with Lori and Jen and staff members, and we're conducting that with MCIE staff right now. So we're looking forward to seeing what that will bring to us. And then if it's very successful, I'm sure that will, play out to the other schools. So we look forward to that.
So as you can see, there's been a lot of thought, conversation that's gone into the preliminary plan that we have in place, and certainly there is a lot more work to be done. But what is exciting, again, is the conversation that is happening. These are becoming more of a living document. Those that need to know about this plan are being more involved, and it's in an inclusive plan. And when people feel part of something, then anything is possible. So the idea that we're trying to take these many, many different standards that we are all held to and really focusing in for a period of time will serve our students well. So we thank you again for the support that you give to us so that we are able to have many different lenses and perspectives that allow our students to experience learning in a way that's real, authentic, higher level learning. And then the idea that we get it here in Winchester. It is that social emotional well-being that allows us to do this very deep dive into the content. So we thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Any questions of the committee, or everyone good?
Are you interested in
thank you.
questions now, or we get through them all first?
I think it might be good to ask questions now, given that there are 5 people here. Or do you want to, depending on your question, obviously you can ask it anytime you want to.
I do have a couple of questions, but I'm happy to wait until we get through middle school and high school.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Brady?
Well, with that introduction,
Mr.
oh,
Brady had his
sorry,
hand up.
sorry.
No worries. Just a comment, I thank you for all of your hard work on these, and I'm very excited to see that you're going to be doing 3 data meetings a year and bi-weekly meeting with the literacy coaches to analyze the literacy data. That's really a very exciting step, and I'm just, as a fellow educator, I'm thrilled to see that, and I thank you all for making that commitment, because I think that'll have a really big impact on all students' learning. So thank you for dedicating yourselves to that.
Excellent, thank you. Any other comments?
I'll wait till the end.
No.
Okay. Mr. Lynn, McCall Middle School? Small team of 1, but mighty.
That's right, and I don't have Lori Kirby to do my introduction. So.
Go get him.
Can I just-
But you do get the microphone to yourself.
Point
I
of
do get the
information,
microphone to myself,
Which file
yes.
should we be following?
It's it's in the folder, in your,
I think we have a draft and we have a copy of copies. so
if you should not, if you refresh right now, you should have, it should be the copy of copy.
Okay,
That's not what I,
thank you.
Yep.
I'm just going to look up there.
I guess so.
Okay, so our first goal is to make sure that our alignment of our curriculum instruction is aligned to the state standards. And just as my elementary colleagues talks about, that is really important because there's a lot to learn, and we want to make sure the students are clear about what the teacher are expecting out of them, and the teachers themselves should be very clear about this is what I would like to be able to get the students to be able to do and to be able to learn. And so this is the work that we'll continue to be doing. And what we'd like to do with our 6th grade exploratory classes is that to follow suit as what we did last year with our teen classes, meaning the world language and English, math, social studies, and science, to make sure that each course has identified that crucial 4 to 6 essential standards that we're going to be focused on this year. So the teachers know what they're teaching, the students know what the teachers are expecting them to learn, and the parents know this is what we're going to be focusing on, and this is how we're going to assess the students. So there is absolute clarity about what this course is about. And so, again, we would like our exploratory courses at the 6th grade level by the end of the year, this year, to be able to identify those essential standards. So PE courses, all our students should know, this is what will be expected out of me during this course. This is what I'm going to learn, and this is how I'm going to get there. Same thing with art, technology, infotech, health, so all the 6th grade exploratory courses. Just like my elementary colleagues talked about, performance-based assessment is also a very important part of our work. Ultimately, we want our students to be able to understand that being proficient or mastering a content is not just about being able to answer a 50 multiple choice question. This is about the students knowing how to apply what they have learned, the skills and the knowledge, how to apply it to a real-world context. And so we're going to be continuing our work with our performance-based assessment. But just as importantly, we want those performance-based assessments to be aligned to the state standards. Some of the work that students come up with are fabulous, but we also want to make sure the students know that when you're doing a project on statistics, we're focusing on your ability, on your knowledge of statistics, not how well you can create a poster, how pretty it is. So we want to make sure that the way that we are grading the students, and also we're presenting the instruction to the students about what they should be delivering in terms of PBAs, are aligned to the standards. And we believe that this is going to help the students decrease the amount of stress, because we know Winchester students want to excel in every single way, but we want to be clear with those students. This is the area, these are the areas we want you to spend all your time in, because these are the essential skills. We're also going to continue to have our teachers collaborate with each other, okay, during their grade level meeting times. And we'll like to be able to once again spend our March PD time to give our teachers time to sit down with each other, to collaborate with each other, and have those very rich conversations about whether our students are learning or not. I visited my 6th grade math teachers just a couple of days ago, and she was explaining to me the most recent PBA they did, which is about teaching statistics. Do the students know the concepts of median, mode, and mean, right? And also how to calculate that. And I know there was a very rich conversation about the students who did not calculate it correctly. So is that a 0? Does that mean that students failed? No, because during that conversation among the teachers, they were able to say that, well, this particular student didn't get the right answer, not because the student doesn't know the concept of mean, median, and mode. Okay, it's because this particular student made a calculation error. That's very different than saying this student doesn't know anything about this concept. So that conversation allowed the teachers to really parse out, okay, what the students really know and what the student needs to work on, as opposed to, you got a 0, too bad. Now we're going to move on to the next thing. That also helped the teachers to really think about, right, so how do I help this particular student to be able to improve? So we're not teaching the students things that they already know. We're really focusing on the areas that the students know. So they're not sitting there going, oh my God, I got it wrong, I got a 0, so I got to do it all over again. Right, so, and we also, the directors and I are also thinking about, the next goal I'm going to be talking about is standard-based grading. But before we can get to grading, we also want to make sure our instruction is aligned with standards. So the directors and I are working on coming up with a system to make sure that we're keeping track of the good work that the teachers are doing in the classroom to teach to the standards and focusing on the standards, and also keeping track of whether their practices in this area continues to improve, and also to think about if there's good work that's happening in one department, how do we share those good work into the other departments? And so we're going to be thinking about how to do that through our evaluation process and also during our leadership meeting time. So we're going to be talking about during those times, how do we get the information out to everybody? So again, if something works, let's make sure we pollinate. We allow these good things to be happening, to be spread across different departments. Okay, should I move on to the next goal? Okay, so the next goal is focused on standard-based grading. As all of you know, that for our team classes and world language classes, we're shifting to standard-based grading for this year. And this is something that we're quite excited about, because this is something that even the previous superintendent has been very interested in. And we have committees coming together, looking at the research, doing a lot of in-depth work on this form of grading. And we feel like there's a lot of potential there to do a lot of good for our students. But again, just like when we do something for the first time, and this year is the first time that all 6th grade teams are grading students based on this format, we want to take a look at, is it accomplishing what we set out to be accomplishing? So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is clarity. So the whole goal of standard-based grading is that, are we clear with the students? Are we clear with the parents about what we're teaching in these courses? And are we clear with these populations about whether the students are making progress towards these standards? We also want to do some data collection and to find out that is it indeed that the students feel less stress about schoolwork? Because I know that students in the past has really worried about work completion. All right, and yes, we're not saying work completion is not important, but we want to make sure that we're focusing on understanding and knowledge as opposed to getting things done. So we want to do some work on this format of grading, and also this teaching, okay, with standard in mind. Is that helping our students in terms of stress reduction? Learning from other districts that has implemented standard-based grading. I know that past districts that has done this in the past has concerns about, is this going to decrease the motivation for students to be succeeding? Now that there is no A+, are students going to feel like, oh, wait a minute, if there's no A+, then why would I want to try hard? Right? We don't think so, because we believe in the fact that students want to learn and students want to be able to succeed, and they want to, if they're interested in something, if we can pique their interest, then they're going to go as far as we want them to go, if not even further. And we trust our teachers' ability to teach, but this is something that we have talked about. Is a change in grading format going to impact students' motivation? So that's something that we're going to be examining as well, and we're going to be starting to do that after the first trimester concluded, which is going to be around early December. So we're anticipating our work with MCIEA, and that sort of assessment is going to start around January. And so we're thinking about conducting surveys. We're thinking about conducting focus groups so we can get both quantitative and qualitative data to help us answer these questions. Okay, so the next goal is about social emotional learning, which we know is crucial to the development of our students. And so what we're working on, and just starting today, is we want to think about how the teachers are doing in terms of explicitly teaching SEL and also integrating SEL into their practices. And so what I've asked the teachers to do today is to really think about what are some areas that we see the students' needs are, all right? And not just think of students as deficits, but let's think about skill sets that we need to build in our students. We know that middle school is a time of a lot of changes that's happening, right? And students are continuing developing their skills. So we want to focus on what are the areas, what are the skill sets that we want to focus on. Okay, so what Aaron Kuhn and also my SEL coach did with our faculty is do a quick review on the CASEL competencies. So my elementary colleagues in the goal talked about self-awareness, relationship building, responsible decision-making. So we want to think about our students, okay, in these areas. What are some parts of those competencies that we need to focus our teaching, both explicit teaching and also in terms of integrating into our instruction in the classroom? So this year, we're focusing on collecting that information, and so the leadership team, working along with our SEL coaches, our instructional coaches, and also our director of wellness, we want to take a look at data and create a plan so that the teachers and administrators as well has the tools to be able to address these competencies so that we can help our students improve. And our last goal, just like our elementary colleagues, we also care about safety. And so, yes, and so these are an areas that the IMT is going to, just like the elementary level, continue to be working on. All right, we are going to do our drills. All right, we are going to think about not just physical safety, but social and emotional safety. So the IMT team and I have talked about what if there are major incidents that's not safety. So for example, what if there is a traumatic event that has happened? How do we help a student address that? What if there is a major event that's related to a racist incident? How do we address that? Because just as physical safety, that sort of emotional safety is also very important for us to consider as well. We're using Parent Square more and more, and we love the translation feature, and so that brings some equity into our communication, and so we're going to continue to use this platform to not just engage the parents in terms of updating them, but also giving them information so that the parents understand what they can do at home to support their students' learning. So some of the sixth grade teams I know, in addition to reporting out to the parents, these are the things that we've done today. I love the fact that many of our sixth grade teachers in their Parent Square update are also including things like conversation starters. Okay, these are things that you can engage your students at home to talk about. Okay, so this year we're learning about statistics. All right, so talk to your students about the project that they've been working on. Okay, so those are the 4 goals that I have for you. Okay, so. Thank you. Okay.
Any questions? No. Excellent.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to give a shout out to one of the WHS's employees. It's Kelly Clough's daughter's birthday tonight, Susie, so happy birthday, and thank you for coming out on your daughter's birthday.
I'm going to be heading home for breakfast for dinner.
There's nothing wrong with breakfast for dinner.
We won't keep you that long.
No. She kids.
So thank you for having us all here tonight. I think This was a difficult challenge, and it isn't typically that difficult for us to come up with a school improvement plan. We're always looking for ways to grow the school, improve the school, and look for little areas to nudge. But talking with Dr. Hackett, talking with Dr. Alanima, and Aaron Kuhn, they were a big help to formulate how to form new ideas. Nobody shines the apple as hard as I do. WHS is a great school. I think we're a tremendous school, and I think everybody knows how proud I am of it. But the challenge is to start to ask new questions. We can rest on our laurels all we want, but then other schools, other communities will pass us. And we also always want to try to get a little bit better every year. So when presented with a school improvement plan, I can actually say to the people at home and in front of Dr. Hackett, it was a significant challenge to come up with goals that we hadn't thought of yet. And Dr. Hackett challenged me to say, it's time to start asking the questions that you don't know that you need to ask. Reflecting on, are we truly preparing kids for their next steps? We can say, well, our kids get into this place, or they go here after school at Winchester High School, but are they really prepared? We get reports that the kids are always prepared, but those are the students that report back to us. We don't know if all students are safe and fully prepared. We also don't know if students are choosing the path or the path has been chosen before them because we've created barriers artificially or on purpose, or the community has created barriers throughout the years of schooling. And we want to start to ask those hard questions of, are we actually doing what we're thinking we're doing? And what type of data can we collect to answer those questions? So the first goal was a really challenging goal to formulate, because it's basically saying we want to start to ask new questions, and we don't know what those questions are yet. We need to look at all the data that we have access to, and we do have a tremendous amount of data with the different softwares that we have. The MCIA, we can look at IEPs, we can use MyFlex Learning, Edwin Analytics, Aspen. We have everything through DESE, and we want to start to look at every little subgroup, every program that we offer, and ask if it's effective, if it's accessible by all students, and whether or not, again, we're putting kids in these areas or they're choosing to go into those areas. And I think that's a big question to ask. So we want to examine all of our practices and structures so that we can start to ask new questions. And it's a vague goal. It's a hard goal for me to get my head around, because, again, the people who know me, if there's a mountain, I want to climb it. If there's a challenge, I want to tackle it. I love checking boxes more than anybody. So when there's a vague goal of, geez, maybe it's time for us to start asking new questions, but what are those questions? It's something hard for me to grapple with, but I've enjoyed staring at the computer for a couple weeks on end, really. In a mystified state of, I don't know what the question should be yet.
Enjoyed might be pushing it.
It's definitely pushing it.
Haven't been there. That might be pushing it.
So the first goal is a large goal of, are we asking the right questions? What questions should we be asking? And that's not something that's easily figured out. But I think we have the right staff, we have the right admin team. And again, I sat with Dr. Alanima and Dr. Hackett to try to formulate this idea as a new idea. We'll use all the data points that we have access to, and we'll start to ask new questions and find areas where we can improve. That's the goal of that goal. We want to ultimately lower barriers to entry, which we've been doing year after year, but ask if there are artificial barriers. Do we create them, or are they natural? And do we need to lower them? Do students want to do certain things, or do we just assume that they want to do certain things? We have to create small subgroups and start asking questions about what those subgroups of those students, what do they want to achieve at WHS? Where do they want to go afterwards? And what are their goals? Not the home's goals, the community's goals, or our goals for them. So those are big questions to ask, and that's the purpose of the first goal. The second goal is much more efficient. It is really focused around PBAs. We have done a great job the last few years of starting to change how we're offering our assessments. It's the MCIA, it's offering performance-based assessments more often than not. And I think at this point we have a healthy balance between your traditional assessment, multiple choice, what have you, and PBAs. There's some teachers that lean real into one side and some teachers that lean real into another side, and that's actually a healthy balance. I think the peeling back of your traditional mid-years and finals has been a boon for WHS, where kids will have now a mixture of ways to be assessed, not just all sit down, take a 90-minute exam, bubble in, have a good summer. So some classes, a lot of classes aren't offering those cumulative assessments at all anymore because we do recommend smaller bites rather than like, let's eat the whole thing at once. And so we want to start to go back to examine our original PBAs. Are they meeting the goal? How can we promote those PBAs if they're successful? And how can we get everybody on board, not because they're required, but because they see the value of the different type of assessment? And we still do want to prepare kids for the next step, whether they're going off to college, university, or the workforce, and essentially, have them take multiple different versions of assessments, which can be sometimes your traditional classic 90-minute exam. They're going to run into many different things beyond WHS, so we want them to have a taste of everything. The third goal is, goes back to that first goal a little bit. We want to start to talk to kids about, why are you choosing this path, or has this path been chosen for you? Were they unfortunately tracked or placed in different classes all the way, K through 5, middle school to high school, where they've certainly been tracked of, I don't like school, I don't want to do this, or I like school, or I love school, and why are they going off to certain schools? What's available to them? Why are they choosing not to go off to school? What's available to them? And how can we help broaden their horizons on all fronts? So whether it's inviting in, we always invite in our college and university recruiters, which is great, that's easy, but we haven't really brought in like Peterson's or like an HVAC company or different opportunities. And military comes in because federally they have to, but we don't ever really give them an opportunity to present what they have to actually offer with ROTC and the GI Bill and things of that nature. So we want to actually look at why our kids are choosing certain pathways, or have those pathways been chosen for them by artificial or natural barriers, and what they plan to get out of it. How can we give them more choices, and how can we celebrate them all as well? We do, we have wear your college shirt day, your university shirt day, and that's never something like, we like to call it next steps day, or what you're going to do after high school day, and the kids sort of self-select what they call it, but we want to celebrate everybody's choices, and we want to make sure that they're choices, they're not what they have to do. Page 3, our next goal is to deepen and expand staff proficiency with culturally responsive teaching. We've been doing some work with this DEI goal for a little while now. Every memo has at least one thing. Every Friday memo, it's my primary communication device to our staff, has at least one DEI focus, whether it's always there in terms of examining your own curriculum, or there's a new article I want people to read. That's always going to be a challenge when we explore our own biases, when we have to really face and have conversations of, do we have implicit bias that we're not even aware of? So that's a goal for, I think all schools do this. I know, James has done a great job with this work as well. So it's a goal for us to really continue the conversation and challenge ourselves to make sure that we're including everybody naturally, not because we're told to or because we have to examine what we're doing because your principal tells you. So that would be our DEI goal. We're going to look at all of our instructional practices and what we do differentiated on for the student and what the student needs. Our next goal is definitely our SEL goal: increase the integration of practices and strategies that promote SEL into daily practice. We want to get to that organic level. This was a great, Erin Kuhn, our head of wellness, really helped with this. We want SEL not, we've talked about it for years. We've implemented a couple of things. We've gone in certain directions and we've come back and we've tried, we've done a lot with it. But it's always been added on rather than naturally occurring. We'd rather now move into an embedded version of SEL where we're not making sure we're doing it, it just comes naturally. And it's a learning curve. It takes some training, and I think we've done plenty of PD on it, and we've had plenty of conversations, but how do we have staff naturally just ask, do my educational strategies naturally contain this or not? And certainly some classes will be easier for that than others, but we want everybody to say, am I naturally doing this, or am I doing it because I'm supposed to? And we want everybody to get to, I'm naturally doing this because I know it's the right thing. And our operational and system support goals. Like the K through 5s and McCall, we like security here as well. It's a constant conversation. Dr. Alanima was in my faculty meeting today, and it was a hot topic because we're an open school. We are rented, we're used, we have a million functions at night, people can come in, and so there's always a concern about, well, what's happening after school? And we have pushed out to families and the community that, you know, your students that are here using the dining commons, there's nobody watching them. It is a public building. It's a rental facility. We do obviously care about the safety and security of the building, and we've taken measures this summer by stopping certain pass-throughs and locking doors earlier than they have been in the past. But we have to continue to look at what can we do, how can we incrementally get better to make it a safe environment when our students are here at any time of day. And also, you know, the training that's going to happen in February with the new program. I think we have a lot of people excited to finally get back to, you know, a school-based, school-wide training rather than the fire drills. Fire drills are great, but I think most people can do them in their sleep, and we have to create a sense of urgency. Where just this last fire drill, we actually started blocking off stairwells with fake fire cards, which I know you guys might have seen, and we're trying to just increase our practice with safety and security. In the program in February, we're excited to have that time. So the new protocols, examining our existing spaces for nighttime and daytime. We are officially, as of tomorrow, going back to a fully locked building during the entire school day. This was a pre-COVID measure. If some of you remember, the juniors and seniors were allowed badge ID cards, where the doors were locked, but because they have open campus, they're able to come and go during lunch only. And those doors they're able to badge themselves in. We'll be back to that as of tomorrow. Now, for all the viewers at home, your students have been told this, they've been emailed this, they've been given the badges, and we asked them, what are these badges for? And they said, we have no idea, other than their badges, so there'll be a learning curve. You know, far be it from people to read the emails, but that'll lead into the next one. But as of tomorrow, the building is fully locked, and we usually have at least one, if not all, the admin team in the dining commons to work with kids and meet them during the lunches. But now we don't have to watch those doors as much as we have been. In the past few years, we watch them vigilantly, but people don't see how much we're actually watching them. But if you've been in the building, you might, or in the cafeteria, you might have seen me like chase a parent that went past the main office, or address somebody and not let them in because they weren't ready to sign in. So tomorrow, I think WHS will be the safest it's been in a long time. What's nice is the juniors will keep those badges until they graduate. The day the seniors graduate, the badges get shut off, and they just become, a common card. So it's nice that it's a two-year program that the students have to be able to have this privilege, and it keeps us safe. And the last goal is providing comprehensive and ongoing timely communication to parents and staff. I think when we had the NEASC group come in, we were rated very highly, and NEASC is actually coming up again very soon, everybody. 10 years goes by like that. We pride ourselves in our transparency. We answer as many questions as we can. Our communication between admin and parents is usually right on, same day. Teachers have more breathing room. We allow them to have 48 hours. Sometimes now we've transitioned to maybe over-communicating. As parents, maybe you're getting too many emails from the school in your inbox, and people aren't reading them all. That's understandable. As a parent of 2 high school-age students, maybe I'm guilty of not reading every single email or morning announcement. And my kids actually don't like it when I do, because I'm like, hey, this is happening. Maybe you want to take advantage of this club or activity for your passion, not your college transcripts. And I know you've never ridden a horse, but maybe, So we're starting to use Parent Square, and we've trained our whole staff. The last 3 PD opportunities, we've offered Parent Square and MyFlex Learning, which is our new scheduling software for WinBlock, which has been fantastic. We're doing tremendous work with that, knowing where our kids are, what they're doing, and stopping them from wandering away, if nobody's watching. We've embraced Parent Square because of the translation services, and now we don't have to think about it, and because it can track data about how many people are opening the emails, how many people are reading the emails. It's a very powerful tool. We're happy that our staff has been trained and they're starting to use it more. It's nice, the data point, as well as you can see who the power users are. So shout out to the math department because they're using it quite a bit and effectively, and other departments are coming on board more and more when they need to communicate. And it goes back to, are we over-communicating sometimes, is a question we need to ask ourselves. I know I've had the privilege of the PFA sends out their Monday morning email, so I haven't had to keep a blog that really only 60 to 100 people were reading anyway for 2 years, because that would have been double communication. And the partnership with the PFA has made that their tool is more effective, so they can do it. And they're really just taking our morning announcements and combining them. So that is also a goal, is to continue the increased use of Parent Square and communicate and try not to over-communicate so people are reading what we're putting out.
Excellent.
That's it for me.
Committee questions?
What's the committee's pleasure in terms of asking the questions? Do you want to go by level? Do you want to start with Dennis because he's already sitting here?
That one makes sense to me.
I mean, I just, as a kind of a general comment, I think the school department has a lot to be proud of in the leadership that we have here. And the good results and the good schools, the great schools, are a reflection of all kinds of things, including having great families and great kids and great staff. But it does begin and end with leadership. The principal is the most important position, from my perspective, in leadership, because they are in the school, they are directly in the classrooms, they're directly working with teachers, and a good principal can make a huge difference. And we have great principals. So I'm proud to work with them. I've learned from them. One of the things that Dennis talked about, and we've been talking about in the challenge of the planning that we've been trying to do here, and we've, and trying to focus on, is when you are really high performing, what do you do, right? I mean, and there's a great book called Atomic Habits, and there's this whole concept of incremental growth, incremental improvement. And the fact that if you can improve 1% in 1 year, the cumulative effect of that over time is huge. And I think that, we're in a position where we can ask questions or figure out what we don't know, put ourselves out there a little bit, accept the fact that, some of this for us is kind of a plan to address areas that we otherwise might not be thinking about because we're very good and we can continue to do what we do, or we can start really trying to think about, do we have underserved populations? Do we have students and staff who need different kinds of support? And I think that incremental improvement is really kind of what we're talking about, and challenging ourselves to think differently about how we're working with kids, how we're working with staff, how we're working with communities. So, I think this is a really great first step for us to begin this work and do this work. And
I think Dr. Hackett and I have had this conversation. There's no perfect school. We're certainly not perfect. We can speak for the district. There's places for us to grow, but we have a unique privilege to be able to ask different questions. We have a unique opportunity through that privilege to look at things differently than many other schools do. And that's I think we say it succinctly that way, that we recognize we're not perfect, we recognize there's places to grow, but we do have a privilege where we are in this community to be able to ask different questions.
I think, Dennis, since you're there looking top down, I think one of the things that I noticed that's really powerful is the common threads, too, because I know Ms. Bolognese and I and Mr. Brady were just at the MASC conference, and what we heard over and over again is it takes 4 to 7 years to really see the impact of improvement. And so I love when I hear things starting at the elementary school that are threads that are carried through to the middle school, that are carried through to, Dennis, what you're doing at the high school, because it's not only seeing that improvement here at the elementary over 4 to 7 years, but how does that impact our kids as they grow within Winchester and as they move through our system. And the other thing I really appreciate, having been on the committee a long time, is hearing the growth of some of the things that we've been working on. So I'm hearing PBA, I'm hearing the SEL, I'm hearing the MCIEA work that we've
that we've been working on for quite a while, and the growth of that. So Dennis, when you say asking new questions, and sometimes it's asking, I love that goal, because we've been doing some of this work, but what questions haven't we been asking too? And how does the work that we've been doing apply to the questions that we haven't been asking, to get to new opportunities for our kids, and just have happier students, and students who are engaged in their learning, and really proud of being a student, as well as being part of Winchester High School too. So I applaud all of you in that work, and the growth and consistency.
Can I offer, since Dennis, you're still here at the table, I did not realize, Michaela, you were on the School Improvement Council till we started, and I'm thrilled to know that you are. I hope that Michaela and her peers who come after her understand sort of that voice that she can bring to the council, and I'm especially interested when you talk about what questions can we ask, because I don't think you've got a better conduit to the student body than your student rep.
Michaela's Stuco. So it's School Improvement Council. Michaela's mom has been on the School Improvement Council
Yeah.
a few times, but she's in Stuco, so it's a different.
Oh, I'm sorry. So at the beginning, I thought I was hearing that she is the representative on the School Improvement Council.
No,
we have a student.
We have 2 juniors that are now on the School Improvement
Very
Council.
good. So I apologize for misunderstanding that. Their voices, I think, are really important, right? Their perspectives are really important. I have a random question for you, because I'm going to use it in an anecdote. How many guidance counselors do we have here today?
Here at the high school?
Yes.
Well, we have one that is transferring to a full-time job, so, sorry.
I should say, how many FTEs do we have?
I have to run through my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half.
Okay. So the reason I was asking that is, and just sort of a general comment to all the principals that are here, one of the reasons that we've kind of changed not only the format of this, but the schedule, is that, by statute, the expectation is that school committees and administration can take school improvement plans and reflect on them as it pertains to budget development. So on top of all the other things that are sort of different and unusual about this is the timing. So I'm interested in how these improvement plans evolve to understand what goals or recommendations have a budget impact, whether it's positive or negative. Can that be flagged for us? I don't think improvement plans are the place to actually monetize it, especially when it's really conceptual. To the extent that there are goals that will impact the budget, meaning we're going to find more resources, it's helpful, I believe, for the school committee to understand, is that a 1-year only, or is that a multi-year? And to flag that. And the reason that I feel strongly about this is this committee, as we all know, we have a lot of deliberation. We vote a budget recommended by the superintendent. Sometimes we tweak it. And then we have to advocate for that with the finance committee and town meeting. There are many examples over the years where initiatives that have been brought forward by administration didn't happen in just one fiscal year, get discussed, get voted, and got funded. They take sometimes multiple years. So it's the tell them what you're going to tell them what you told them model that I'd like us to find a way, just be thoughtful of that in the improvement plans, because there may be some things in here that require funding. For whatever reason, that funding does not become available. So I asked you about the guidance because I thought, first of all, I think your first slide has stuff that I could imagine professionals working on really hard all year. And if I was a part of the team, I don't know how I'd get to the second or third slides. 'Cause, I mean, this is all really, really good stuff. When we talk about how students feel valued and respected, having conversations about, your pathway, these aren't quick binary questions, right? These aren't yes or no questions. It's not black and white. It takes a lot of time. And as you were presenting this, Dennis, I was thinking about who's getting this information. And I'm not sure you touched on that, but I thought, well, the guidance department would seem to play a really big role in this. Do they have the time to sort of, invest in this? And so I not to dig into that specific, but you see where I'm going with this is if there are goals that require more of our professional staff do we have the time for that to be supported? If we don't, does it mean they do less of something that's less important and not aligned with district goals? Or do we need to get more staff time, which of course then is, a budget impact? So I throw that as an
Answer you
example.
Quickly.
Yep.
Mr. Dixon, if you ever ask anybody if they have enough time, the answer will be no.
Appreciate that.
So we have to ask it a little differently. Nobody
Yeah.
will ever say that they have the time. The people will want to take on hard work. People will find the way to take on hard work, but we're always giving up something to do something else.
Right.
So time is an issue that we're always talking about at my level, I'm sure at everybody else's level. Do we have time to look at IEPs? Do we have time to create curriculum? Do we have time to add new PBAs? Do we have time to look at data to ask questions we don't know what the questions are yet? The answer will always be no, but we figure it out, we look at it, and if we have to get resources, well, we're not shy about asking for resources.
I think the other thing that we try to focus on is we don't want to be in the habit or the mode of having a solution that's looking for a problem.
Right.
And I've been in school systems where that is absolutely the case. What's the hottest new thing? Someone goes to a conference, someone goes, and it just starts to become, we saw this great thing, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And when Dennis talks about privilege of being able to not think that way, it really is about, for us, and Kelly and others mentioned it, we want to go deeper on what we're doing. We want that incremental improvement, and we want to get better at what we're doing. And that's not to say everything we're doing is the right way to do it, but examining that practice and in getting away from and really protecting our staff from constant flow of brand new initiatives. And that's hard because, we are in a community that has high expectations. We are working with students who deserve our best. But if we can really be thoughtful and continue to stay the course on really trying to improve what we're doing versus looking for something new to solve a problem that is perceived or real, then that to me is the most important part of what we're trying to do. So, and I think this group of leaders is all about that. I mean, and I think it has been difficult coming out of the pandemic. I mean, it was a very challenging time, and they didn't talk about it tonight, but I'll say it for them. I mean, we have principals and assistant principals teaching classes right now because we still have high levels of absenteeism. We still have a hard time filling positions. We still have all of those challenges that less so, but they're still there for us. So, we just want to make sure we're staying focused on the right things. And that's, that really is, to me, how we get better.
So, agreeing with everything you just said, I circle back to my sort of overarching comment, which is for elementary, middle, and high school, I feel like it's helpful to the committee to understand what either the specific action plans or the evidence and indicators, to the extent they require significant more time or some other investment. What is that? Again, it doesn't have to be monetized here.
Yep.
But if we need resources to support the goals of the improvement plan, this committee is going to be talking about that, 5-6 weeks from now? I mean, it's coming.
5 to 6 minutes, we're talking about the budget calendar.
We're
So
talking about the calendar.
Right,
And then we'll know exactly what night we're talking about, but it's coming. So that is sort of the broad comment that I wanted to make about that.
Can I just a quick follow-up to what Mr. Nixon's saying? What I heard a lot, and correct me if I'm wrong, principals, Jen, Laurie, what I heard about a lot of the work that is being presented is it's a lot of embedded work, too, where it's not necessarily guidance counselors who own this work, but everyone who owns this work. And so I think about budget a little differently when I think about everybody owning the work instead of an individual or a certain group of individuals owning the work. And so I'm interested to hear more about that as we go along. Because if we're sharing the workload, it's different than saying, oh, the guidance counselors are going to have to deal with all this data. Am I hearing that correctly from everyone? Anyone?
Yes, I think so. It's about, a lot of it's about embedding, which means it has to be everybody.
Any other comments, questions? Oh,
I had a question and comment on the McCall piece, but I don't know if we had other questions for Dennis on the high school.
yeah, well, I was just going to mention, and it's not specifically for Dennis, but it was your words that brought it up in my mind. But I was really intrigued by the notion of the privilege to ask new questions, and it reminded me of my time when I was on the board of higher ed. The states compete on college attainment, and Massachusetts was #1 in college attainment, and so we had this whole conversation about how, well, what should be our North Star? Should we try to be #1 by college attainment by a higher margin than we were? And instead we said, what you said is, well, we have an opportunity here. And so we made equity the North Star and said, instead of trying to take the top higher, we'll lift from the bottom. But it was a very privileged position that we were in, that we could take that position. And so the questions that you guys are asking right now, given where we are in such a strong district, are really interesting to me to say, well, what can we do? And where should we be doing things we might not be thinking of and might not be the way, our community or other communities are thinking about competing because we're in this position. So I found that really interesting. So, but Mr. Nixon, if you want to.
Sure. And I might, James, I apologize, I'm putting you on the spot, to the McCall piece. So I get two thoughts or questions.
Mr. Lynn, for WinCam, can you? I think Mr. Mahoney would be happy
Have a
to
good evening,
switch
everybody.
places.
Thank you.
And yes, thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you for coming.
We'll be over shortly.
So I mean, I have other thoughts, in the presentation tonight. We have limited time tonight, so I appreciate Dr. Hackett. It's preliminary. Just two things that I was thinking about. In James, in your opening slide, and you talked about kind of the role that looks like the directors play a pretty significant role in working with exploratory teachers, looking at the learning standards. They seem to play a pretty key role. But of course, those directors have responsibility in other buildings as well. It was interesting to me that because, for instance, that's not something that's identified in Dennis's presentation, but it's very much part of McCall. Is there a sense that is there a sense that there's something here in this building that's working really right that we're sort of drawing on to inform that process at McCall, or might it be more about letting this process go forward at McCall, and then something is learned, and that sort of comes back to the high school? And I'm asking that because it's a pipeline, and the directors kind of have a presence and responsibility across the buildings. So I was just wondering if you might speak about that. Is this something that in your discussions maybe with the leadership team is sort of specifically a McCall issue, or is there maybe an opportunity? Might this inform practices at the high school as well?
No, I see.
Happy to jump in
You
too,
should,
Dave,
yes.
if you want about that, 612. So the identification of the standards has been done for like a long time, like way pre-pandemic. So what they're doing now and why it's a focus, the high school is not per se everyone's in good shape with that, with the
Okay.
prioritized, identified standards. But what's happening at the middle schools with sixth grade, we started with the core teachers and then moving into the exploratories around identifying which of those core standards, so we code them green, essential, which of those are the most important that we give regular feedback to and that they get onto the report card. So it's clear that those are the priority of the prioritized. So that's what's new that's happening at McCall that's different than the other 6 through 12 piece.
Okay, thank you for
Sure.
that clarification. And then I just want to make that observation with respect to standard-based grading, which is, I think we all know it's gathered a lot of interest and attention, among some in the parent community. And you mentioned your interest in student surveys. I'm interested in understanding, I'm thrilled to know students would be involved in that, and I'm looking at that spring deadline. You didn't say this, James, but I was assuming from your presentation that would the survey sort of be limited to sixth graders, or have you thought through that yet? Because there's a reason this is a leading question. Maybe you can tell where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I
don't
think.
know, James. No,
huh?
go ahead.
That's all right.
Yes, we're also very interested in the current seventh graders because last year, as you know, half of them.
For a baseline, if you will, right?
Right, and also how they're transitioning to a letter-based grading system. Right, and so that is something that I'm very interested in as well. I mean, in fact, I was actually thinking about getting feedback from them first. Because that transition process just fascinates me. And there's also they already have gone through a year of standard-based grading. Granted that some of the processes has changed a little bit, right? What's happened last year is not exactly the same as this year, just because we couldn't do, what we couldn't do last year was because only 2 of the teams were using this. So, I'm interested, I would like to figure out how to get the information from them first, because they've gone through that 1 year, and also they have the experience of having this comparison.
I'm thrilled to hear you say that, because as you were making your presentation, and I was thinking about sixth graders being surveyed, we're talking about kids whose sort of educational experience has been turned completely upside down, from sitting in a core classroom teacher's class almost all day, right, in 5th grade. And so the structure of the day is different. They're moving around the building. So much about their experience is different. I think it'd be terrific if you can find a way to sort of get something valuable from those 7th graders for whom that's maybe less of an issue and they have that perspective. I think, will only make, that information that much more meaningful. So I'm pleased to hear you say that. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Are you looking for specific feedback by a date from the
So,
committee?
Thank you for the question. I wasn't sure if we were done. I mean, I didn't know if anyone else.
That was
had-
my cue. I'm done.
Yes. So the next steps for us would be, we will, right now you have the middle school, high school plans, you have the consolidated elementary school plan, you'll have all the elementary individual plans, and my hope would be that you can have some time with those, review those, get questions to me, which I can get back out to the leadership team, suggestions, whatever it is that you would like to provide us so that we can kind of get to the next iteration of this. I think we're in a position where we are ready to probably share these back out with the school councils and get that same kind of feedback. And you meet again, I believe, I think the first week in December is the next meeting. I think that's
December 5th.
Yeah, it's
I mean, that's a great timeline from my perspective. I think we would be able to come back with kind of final, to the extent that they're final, but plans that have reflective of your feedback, reflective of school council, and we still have some, I think, some additional feedback we can get from others too. So that's kind of how I would see the next steps, if that, and again, the committee doesn't approve these, but obviously it's a big piece of what we do, so.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to stay.
Nice
Thank
job.
you.
Don't
Thank
leave,
you.
you don't have to leave.
Please go home. You've worked a full, long day.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you
Do
so
you want
much.
to go to the strategic planning framework, or do you want to do the consent agenda?
Yeah, maybe we just go back to just get this stuff,
Consent
get this stuff out, yeah.
And do you want to? Okay. All right. So we'll move up to our consent agenda. So you all have the items in the folder. So we can just take a motion,
I just,
unless you want to pull something off the agenda.
I'm not formally asking we pull item D, but I don't know that we had a link or any information on that. Is there anything that administration cares to share with us on that item, or if it's
Sure.
not ready
Yep,
for
so
prime
happy
time, do we
to.
pull it?
And, Andrew can speak to this a little bit too. This is a donation from the Winchester Chinese School. I think partly in recognition that the transition from Lynch to VO was challenging for everybody. And, I'll give Andrew a shout out, just the amount of time, and also Kathy Karen, VO
For that
principal.
rental activity. you
For the
mean.
The
rental
rental.
activity.
Thank you, yeah, okay.
Because I think part of what happened is they were able to register more students. The location of VO is closer to Lexington, so I think they're serving a broader population than they had in the past. And I think this is just a thank you for being and helping and being accommodating really to the school for the classrooms that are being used and just the school in general. So the donation itself will be used kind of to really further the work of Vince and Owen, could be related to some things that they're doing within their improvement plan or, work what they're doing with staff and kids.
And this is in addition to their rental agreement?
Yes,
This is above and
This is separate and
beyond.
apart from the rental agreement, yeah.
So there's no string, other than it's sort of spent at the whim of the superintendent and the building principal.
I would not say the whim. I would say that it is spent with diligent thought and
Careful judgment.
purpose and careful judgment.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes. Thank you to the Enka Society, to the Cummings Community Giving, and to the Winchester Chinese School for your contributions. All right, so on to the reports, updates, and action items. We're on to item B, consideration of approval of strategic plan frameworks.
So the framework you do have in your folder, it should look very familiar to you. I've not received any feedback from any members around that last draft of the feedback of the framework. So, and I'm having a hard time calling it up immediately, but, and I especially feel pressure given the fact that my screen is actually being projected. Oh, I don't want to do this. So, you do have the framework again. It has not changed since the last time. We have the 3 goal areas, as you heard tonight, explained in, I think, more detail. And I would ask for your consideration of approval.
Did people have a discussion or make a motion?
I would move that we accept the strategic plan framework as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, so congratulations, that's passed.
That's well to all of us.
Yeah, so next is the FY25 budget development draft timeline and process.
So, to the earlier point, we are now entering the time of year when we need to start talking about next year, which always amazes me. And as you know, you have a timeline for your budget development. It really kind of works backward from the date in which we have to present it to the town manager, which is we'd like to have that done by the end of January. We do have a calendar in your folder that you can look at. You don't necessarily need to approve it this evening, but I think that maps out pretty well, and I think it's a pretty straight line to get to that point. We are already working on FY25. Mr. Maron's been already looking at rolling over staff, which is obviously the biggest piece of our budget. We have more knowns this year. We have a contract with all our employees, so we're not guessing where that might come in. Now I think this year, as we go into next year, and we have these improvement plans, and we have the framework, I think you're going to see the process look a little different this year from the perspective of we really want to start thinking about and talking about what are the things that we want to incrementally improve on, and what are the areas, even programmatically, that we want to consider that may be existing that we want to enhance or expand, or maybe something that we're not currently doing that is starting to emerge is an interest for kids, for staff, so part of our steps in the process will be our first job is rolling over. We would like to get your finance subcommittee together. I believe, Andrew, we talked about the week after Thanksgiving as the first meeting. At that point, we'd be able to present to the finance subcommittee a really good version of the rollover budget. From now, for us, working with the leadership team and just kind of prioritizing around, as you heard tonight, the plans that they put together, they'll be more than willing and ready to present us with information of things that they feel that they, one, need to have and would like to have. We always have the challenge of we really have to think about our enrollment. We have class sizes is one of the biggest things we have to think about at the elementary level, and how many sections do we need. We are up at the elementary level in enrollment. We are particularly up at the kindergarten level. We are, as you know, engaging in getting an enrollment study done for the purposes really, first, the priority of being able to inform our budget process, which we anticipate will have those data for us to work from. So there are a lot of pieces this year that I think are going to come together in a more, in a way that is more informative of the process versus last year when it was just kind of, we don't really know how many kids we're going to have. We don't really know where our contracts are going to land. So, you know, I think this is a good year for us to really have more reflective conversations about how we can improve and support the work that we're doing. So that's kind of all I want to bring to you tonight. The first step, again, getting to your finance subcommittee, the rollover budget, so at least we have a starting point. And remember, rollover, what we mean is we're just bringing everything forward. We've not made any decisions around class sections or programs. It's just, okay, we're going to do next year the same thing we're doing this year, and everything would just stay the same. What does that look like it's going to cost us?
Couple things on this, on the timeline. One is, I note we have the open public hearing on the budget. We usually set a backup date on this calendar for a snow day.
So we had this conversation last year, and we kind of got into the discussion of would we,
Do it on Zoom?
Would we do it through Zoom?
Zoom. Okay.
So, do we need, if we need to cancel, then, do we want to cancel? How strongly the committee, we certainly could put a date on the calendar, but I
Right.
think it's up to you as a committee about how strongly you
We
feel.
have that as a footnote on the calendar now, on the bottom.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there a footnote? Okay.
Go down
all
at
right.
the bottom.
You're challenging my eyes, Andrew.
I went right along with what she said, just believed her fully that she,
Can I make may I pile on, Ms. Bergstrom, real quick, to what you just said?
Yeah.
So although Zoom is great, and I appreciate the flexibility, you know, obviously pre-COVID, we were meeting in person, and the intention was to have that snow date just in case. We rarely use it. My preference for a meeting of this significance, and because it is a public hearing,
person.
would be to do it in person.
Yep.
My memory is that we set those snow dates, though, on a Thursday.
Thursday.
So I, whoever did that, that's great, because that's the 25th.
who remembered?
Then it says, I see Wednesday, the 31st. That's for,
So snow day for the public hearing and a snow day for the actual vote on the budget.
They're both there. They're just in the fine
so we
print.
do have other sort of committees in town that meet on Wednesdays that sometimes draw school committee members. So my reflex was to say maybe all of our snow days should be on Thursdays, even though that technically pushes us out of January. My memory is we actually, I think, did vote a budget like on February 1st a year or two ago. I don't know how consequential it is. If we're pushed to a snow date, we're pushed to a snow date. My preference would be that they be on Thursdays. That's all.
It's a
I was just
town
gonna offer.
timeline,
But I
isn't
think
it?
I think we should have the snow dates to meet in person.
Right. Town timeline is by the
We were,
31st,
I mean,
right?
we were working with the idea.
But
that
they
we
would
had
be
to have it
closed
done
if
by
we were
January 3rd.
closed.
Yeah, first, so, I mean, I think, you know, the reality is that I don't think the town manager is necessarily going to care whether she gets the budget on February 2nd or January 31st. so-
Especially if it's because of.
Correct.
The
inclement
snow
weather.
day, that's what
my
I'm
point.
saying,
Right,
yeah.
That's my point.
Right. So, if the committee would like, we can change that to February 1.
Just for consistency.
Sure.
That
That's
was my only comment.
Yep.
And my only other comment is, there have been some community conversations and questions about the school budget and how the conversations happen about the school budget. And I just, while we have the opportunity and we're talking about it, remind people that the finance subcommittee meetings are posted on the town website. And that just like school committee meetings, they're posted 48 hours in advance of the meeting. And if people are interested in listening in on those conversations, that's where they should be looking for the information for those dates. They don't appear on this calendar.
Correct. And I think at the, you know, it may be possible at the first finance subcommittee meeting, that the finance subcommittee can set dates and we can republish this calendar. We like to have
Publish your
some
own.
flexibility around it too, as you know, because things change, information comes in at different times. But I think we could probably provide some dates as well that
I think we aimed for Thursdays for those
We do.
last year, too.
Correct, right, right.
So Ms. Bergstrom's comment now raises a question in my mind. Do we presume that most of those subcommittee meetings would be over Zoom, just given the participants and availability and
They
so
were
forth?
last year.
They typically
Yeah,
are.
They have been for a few years.
Yeah.
And that has suited us well, has it not?
It has, because
Yeah.
sometimes,
Everybody.
well, particular commit, like curriculum committee, subcommittee has staff there, so, but it has, and I think it meets, it really, I mean, it meets our needs in the schedule, everyone's schedule, so.
And especially for the Finance Education Subcommittee members to be able to attend, too.
Right. So we'll change the Wednesday snow date, the 31st, to February 1, and we will, we'll set the first meeting of the Finance Subcommittee, and Andrew will reach out. I believe we talked about a date already, right?
Yeah, I think
Which
we're
would
all
be
That first Thursday,
first Thursday of the week after Thanksgiving,
yes, that'd be the 30th November.
November 30, so,
Thanks. And we were thinking in
4?
the afternoon, around 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that's generally when we've done it, so.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Future agenda items. We have strategic and facilities planning and FY25 budget development, which we were just talking about. Yes,
Two things.
two more items.
One you've heard of before. We talked, I think, at the last meeting about having some sort of presentation on data security, for lack of a better term. I think some of that really warrants an executive session discussion.
Too.
There may be other elements of this, though, that could be public, maybe with some sort of, public-facing document or presentation. And I had some follow-up conversation with the superintendent about this. My sense is we may be prepared pretty soon to, engage in some sort of conversation around that. So I think that would be helpful. But I think those are two different conversations, public versus executive. And then so that we don't forget about it, I know the committee is aware, we have that design and cost estimate for the Winchester High School gymnasium. That came in August, I think. Yes, mid-August. So a couple of different options have been developed with respect to flooring replacement. There are also a couple of different options that have been developed in terms of the reconfiguration of the gymnasium. And in conversations with Dr. Hackett and Mr. Marin, we have kind of kicked around this idea of getting our athletic director to a school committee meeting to kind of present this, perhaps with the architect from TAP A, and they can, take questions. I think there's real interest on the part of Capital Planning Committee in understanding this as well. We've shared the report with Capital and the Select Board. So although it might be clumsy to suggest a joint meeting on, a single topic, I think we should talk about it. And I'm hoping that, administration, particularly from Dr. Hackett and Mr. Aria, might have a recommendation for us about which path to take. There is not an insignificant cost swing in these options. So if you go with the cheapest floor and the cheapest reconfiguration, I think it was about 1.7. You go with the more expensive of the two, we're pushing 2.3, maybe even $2.4 million. So it's a lot of money. And at the end of the day, to me, it really speaks to educational program, right? So before the report gets old and gathers too much dust, and now that we're virtually out of fall town meeting, it would be great if we can find a way to schedule that presentation. Yeah, and I think everybody's seen a copy of the report, but if that's not the case, please let me know, and maybe Andrew could share it with the committee, and if there are questions in advance, we can, be teed up for that.
Yep.
Yeah, is that not reasonable to
Yep.
maybe
No, absolutely.
do that soon?
Yep,
Okay.
because we're gonna get busy on other things too, so.
Yeah.
And Mr. Nixon, bids will be closed and awarded on Lynch by our next school committee meeting as well. So
Yes,
maybe
they
a quick
will.
update on that.
This is wood, right?
So maybe a quick update on that at our next meeting as well, just a little.
Yes, we will be having our next EFPBC meeting on Monday, December 4th. We are expecting to be voting to authorize contract award, and then the very next night is our school committee meeting.
And I am hoping that by December 5th, we will have had a policy meeting, a curriculum meeting, and a finance subcommittee meeting, so maybe
Gotcha.
subcommittee reporting out at the next meeting, too.
And we could start making that a standing item on the agenda.
Yeah, that would be great.
And with apologies to the chair and my colleague, I did learn today our town auditor has had a schedule conflict. So we were originally going to have an audit advisory committee
Yeah.
meeting that week. It looks like for a quorum, we actually do need to meet on Tuesday, the 5th, around 7 o'clock. So I don't know if it's gotten through to Mr. Marin yet, but I might be stepping out for briefly on that school committee meeting and stealing his office. That's over Zoom.
Okay.
But I would need to participate in that for a little bit and then just come back and join the committee.
Thank you. All right, two more items before we go to executive session. One is future meeting dates, December 5th and 19th. And then if we swing all the way back up to the top of our agenda, I didn't know if our student members have anything to say in their report. Dr. Hackett?
I think I've said enough.
All right. So if you would like to, we can hand a mic down to you maybe.
Lori, can you give him the mic?
Well, we have a couple upcoming events. So next week we have the pep rally, which student council is organizing. We're super excited for that. We also have girls flag football, which is I think our second year doing this as like a school sponsored event. So we're super excited about that. Those are probably our main updates. Spirit Fair too. Do you want to say?
Spirit Fair is this Saturday, I believe. Yes, this Saturday from 9 to 1 at the Winchester High School. So we have a lot of clubs are going to be there selling their merch. So please come support. As Michaela mentioned, girls flag football will be at Knowlton Stadium at 6:30 on Tuesday. So come support the Winchester High School for that as well. We will be running a can drive as well. I believe for the Anchor Pantry. Yes, for the Anchor Pantry, which student council and the class officers are organizing as well. I think that is pretty much a wrap on what's going on at the high school right now. We have some more events for December, so we will let you know about that in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are we coming back here, or can we adjourn directly?
I don't know what you're doing.
I mean,
I think you're adjourning.
I'd like
think
to say
you're
we adjourn
adjourning.
directly out of.
Yeah.
All right, so can we have a motion to move
Do you have any
into?
chair remarks or no?
No, I think I'm good right now. We're a little behind it, our schedule. so.
I just,
Do you have remarks,
Mr. Brady,
Vice Chair
did you have anything about the families at Morocco? Is there anything that the Morocco
fire.
community is doing to support the families from the fire that you're aware of?
I think there are GoFundMes that have been posted on social media, so I would definitely encourage people to engage with those. I don't think there's anything more formal than that. Unfortunately, this has been a recurring situation. It happened in the spring, it's happening again, so I think just, again, reaching out and supporting those families. If you're not sure who to contact, I think you could definitely contact the school, and the school would be happy to put you in touch with the people who are organizing the efforts, or the families directly. I'm sure would appreciate any and all support. But I know the Morocco community is certainly standing behind them, as is everyone in Winchester, and I know a lot of people are working hard to support them. So, I think it's just important that everyone engage in whatever way they can. I've seen them continuing to do their best to recover, and even today, when I went by, folks were working and trying to salvage and figure things out. So it's definitely a challenging situation for them, and I just hope the community can continue to step up as they usually have. So.
And certainly our heart goes out to those families and the Morocco community in general. So thank you we'll look for those GoFundMes and whatever else we can do to support.
I know the Lynch community had communicated about the GoFundMes. I imagine most of the other schools are as well. But yeah, thank you. And thank you, of course, to the whole community for supporting all of the articles so far related to the schools at town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just recognize maybe your teammate, Nora Dunn? who showed up at town meeting with members of Winchester varsity tennis to advocate for much-needed repairs to the Parker Ellis courts. They showed up, I think, at 6 or 6:30 in the evening and sat there for 3 hours until it came up on the floor. It's really terrific when our students step up and, seize those opportunities, and I think it's really important for the community to see and hear from students. So I'm just very appreciative that she showed up and said what she had to say. It was pretty effective.
Brought some teammates with her, too.
What's that?
Brought some teammates with her, too.
She did.
Excellent. So, motion to move into executive session? Someone
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So we'll move into executive session, and we'll adjourn directly from there.
Yep. Are we going to do that in here, or are we going to do that in Andrew's office? If every,
Probably better to do
Andrew's office.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
quicker.
Thank you.
You're good with it.
Have at it.
Closer to the door.
Like totally forgot to speak to you. I've been
Grab
so
our
bad.
stuff,
Okay.
though. We don't need it.
And, like,
Oh, yes.
I've, like, I'm like, the amount of like quarter one work that I'm like cramming in. I like keep like forgetting. I haven't texted Aiden back either.
Yeah,
Like,
when I,
just like stuff to like all the committees and
Yeah,
stuff.
or even like a screenshot shot.
yeah, I'll just, yeah, no, I'll pull it up and I'll, awesome, thank you. I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Okay.
All right. Go get some gear. Get me some gear on Saturday. Merch. Oh, thank you. Get my merch. Sorry. I'm old.
Your meeting in person?
Yeah. Nine. Let's join all.
Well, yeah, if, what I'd love is, if you don't mind, I mean, share it with me if I can. I mean, I'm happy to come. I want to be sure Jay Nardone is aware as well, because it's going to be, yeah, throw Jay Nardone on it, because, Meg has already come right out and said,
Well, it didn't sound right